Hey, it is an unstoppable day. Welcome to 21 Days of Gratitude, day 3. 21 Days of Gratitude, sponsored by Unstoppable Thoughts by Coach Terrance. And hey, that just happens to be me. I'm your host, Terrance, the Unstoppable Coach Leffridge, helping you gain an attitude of gratitude as we go into these holiday season. Now, this is our third annual year of doing these 21 days of gratitude. And we recognize that, before anything can become a habit, you have to put it into practice. And so, over the next 21 days leading up to the Thanksgiving holiday, we want you to put into practice this attitude of gratitude. What are you thankful for? What are you grateful for? And then to help you focus on those things that you already have, in spite of those things that you might be desiring to have in the future. Now, today we have a special guest because today, on day 3, we are talking about mentors and friends. There was a song back in the day said, "Friends, how many of you have them? Friends, the ones you can depend on." And when we talk about friends, we talk about those people that you can depend on. But also, when we talk about mentors, we talk about those advisors you can depend on, those people that are at a place that you are trying to get to, and they are more than willing and able to share their guidance and share their wisdom with you. As a matter of fact, the definition of a mentor is an experienced and trusted advisor. And so I'm so happy to have my trusted advisor that is turned from mentor into friend with me. He is a distinguished Toastmaster. He is an experienced leadershipology specialist. He even wrote a book about it, and he'll talk to you about it as we go along. But over the years of his mentoring, we have developed a relationship that I would like to say publicly has turned into a friendship. So I'm glad to have him here. He's none other than the leadershipologist himself, Velton Showell the Third. Good morning, Velton. How are you?
Not as good as you, and I'm great, Terrence.
Well, you are doing fabulous. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning on Unstoppable Thoughts in our 21 Days of Gratitude. So I want to jump right into it and just ask you, what does gratitude mean to you?
Well, gratitude, I mean, it's partially a religious thing, but it's also a mental feeling. The In the Bible, we talk about grace and being grateful for the things that we've been given. And leading up to your program, the 21 days of
Gratitude.
gratitude, you know, the question we always have to ask ourselves is what am I grateful for? It's easy for us to ask ourselves or to come up with a problem. There's a problem for every solution if we look at it from that perspective. But what am I grateful for? What is it that I've been blessed with? What is it from a skill set standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a family standpoint? It may not always be an economic situation, but we can find something to be grateful for if we're willing to look for it. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what is it that we're looking for? What is our quest? How do we show up every day? Do we show up in a feeling of being grateful? Do we show up in a feeling of sharing and caring? Do we show up in a situation where we is more important than me? And when you talk about being grateful or you talk about gratitude, a lot of times, especially what the topic of what you're talking about today with friends and mentors is, are you grateful for the people that are surrounding you? Are you grateful for the people that are pouring into your life that you can trust and depend on? Those are the keys. And I love the topic today, mentors and friends, because they really should be synonymous.
Yeah, they definitely should. We know in business that sometimes there isn't much room for friendship. There's more room for relationship, and that relationship is on many different levels. But what I love about you, Velton, is when we met in at a conference, a virtual conference in Maryland many years ago, and I remember we were both on this stage at this conference in the middle of the night because it was going on for 24 hours consecutively.
Mhm.
And I watched you, and they say you never know who's watching, but always remember someone is watching. And I watched your demeanor, and I watched the way you carried yourself, and I watched the way you spoke to other people. You have over 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry, so you are a big shot, but you didn't carry yourself like you were more than that. You were open, you were accommodating, and I said that's somebody that I want to get to know. And then fast forward to when I decided to move my family down here to Florida, where you are. You were the first person that I reached out to. And you said, sure, come on, let's go have breakfast, have a cup of coffee. And you shared your wisdom and you shared your knowledge, and you've been doing that ever since. And that's what I love about you as a mentor. And that's what I think the pure definition of any mentor should be: being open and willing to giving their wisdom and sharing their expertise with someone, and in such a fashion that you made it easy to move past that mentor mentee relationship into an actual friendship. So with all that being said, first of all, thank you for that. But second of all, how do you feel about mentors, and do you have any mentors in your life that you're grateful for?
Oh wow. I've got a long list, but here's the thing about mentorship. You touched on a couple of things in business. There's not a lot of room for friendship. I don't agree with that because before you can be my mentor, I have to trust you. And so, who do you trust more than a friend? And so, they've got to be able to move beyond just the business relationship. If I really want to be your mentor, I have to open the door to my inner world. And I only open my door to my inner world to people that are in the friendship space. So if I really care about you, it's not just that I want to help mold you, but it's a reciprocal agreement where I'm your mentor, but I'm also your mentee. Les Brown says, you're never too old to learn, you're never too young to teach.
Yes.
So, it doesn't depend on my experience or feeling of superiority when we get into this relationship. It's a give and take. I should learn from you, you should learn from me. Now, I may have more knowledge and experience in a specific area, but there are areas that I don't. So, just as much as I'm giving, I'm also receiving. So, when you really talk about mentorship, it's really about friendship because when you talk about friends, you give of yourself, but you receive also. I opened the conversation talking about with a religious spin, but I'll never forget going to a church and listening to a pastor, and he said the next time that you're in a situation, I want you to and you meet a stranger. When you get within 3 feet of them, remember either you have a blessing for them or they have a blessing for you. When
Yes.
you use that type of attitude in the world, you develop a lot of friendships and you develop a lot of mentorship opportunities. When you become someone's mentor, it's usually not because you want to mentor them, but they see something in you that they want to learn from, they want to be exposed to, or they want to be a part of. So the question becomes, how do you show up? How do people see you when you walk into a room? I had a general manager who used to say to us all the time, he says, the only thing I ask of you every day is not just to show up, but to show up with your best self. that
Yes.
best side of you, that best part of you that is magic, that people want to be around, people want to be attracted to, people want to emulate and work with. You asked me a question about, do I have mentors? And I said I have a long list of mentors. Just because I just wrote a post a couple of weeks ago, I think you saw it, where I grew up in the inner city. And there's an
Hmm.
old African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a
Raise
child.
a child.
And
Absolutely.
there's so many men who touched me, molded me, shaped me to being the person I am today. And I listed just a few of them. But there's one specific person in the business world who I dedicated my latest book to, and his name was Robert Steele. And Robert was my first mentor in the hospitality industry. And he's an African American brother. And I was a trainee in Baltimore, Maryland, and was going through it. They put me through the ringer. And I wanted to be in sales, and they told me, "You're not sales material," believe it or not.
Wow.
Exactly. I spent 25 years in sales after they finally opened the door. But going through that turmoil, I hit the wall. I was called into a meeting that I just after this meeting I said, "That's it. I've had it. I've had enough. I'm getting out of here." And I walked out. I had been going through the training program for a whole year. I walked out. I was 2 blocks down the street, mumbling and cursing under my breath. And I heard this voice, "Velton, Velton." And I turned around and I see this guy coming towards me, Robert Steele. He's the food and beverage director. He's one of the top level guys in the hotel. And I'm saying to myself now, and I told you I'm from the inner city, I'm from the hood. I said, I
Right.
hope he doesn't come up here with no BS.
Uh-huh.
I'm about to, whoop up on somebody.
Right. I'm
I'm in
ready.
that
I'm ready.
mood. I'm in that frame of mind. And he came up and he said, "Velton, Velton, it's Robert." And I turned around and said, "Hey, Robert, what's up?" He said, "Hey, man." He said, "I know you've been going through it. I know they put you through the trials and tribulations and some turmoil." He said, "But you've worked too hard. I've watched you." He said, "You've been in this struggle for a whole year. You ain't going out like that, man. Well, you're not going out like that." He said, "Come on." He said, "I'm going to take you under my wing. I'm going to watch out for you. I'm going to guide you through this process because you have what it takes. And I want to make sure you make it."
Wow.
And from
That
that day forward, he became my mentor. My mentor, my coach, and ultimately my friend. That was in 1983 or 84. Okay. It's 2022.
yeah.
He's been my friend, mentor, coach, whatever you want to call it, for 32 years.
That's powerful. That is very powerful. And again, it was an evolution. As you told your story, we could see the evolution of the
Mhm.
relationship between you and him and how it grew beyond what even you expected. Because I didn't hear in your story that you reached out to him, he reached out to you. And that's
Exactly.
even more powerful. That is
Exactly.
that someone can see something in you so much that they want to reach out to you and extend a hand, not a
Mhm.
handout, but a helping hand to help you go forward. And you know, we're both speakers, so we often use this phrase, you can't see the picture when you're part of the frame. As you were walking away, grumbling and cussing underneath your breath, you couldn't see the full picture because you were still in the frame. But he saw this future picture of you. He saw that thing in you that maybe you hadn't seen for yourself yet. And he saw enough of it that he brought you back. He brought you back. And that's
Mhm.
what a mentor does. That's what a experienced and trusted advisor does for you. He or she, I don't want to just make this one dimensional. That trusted advisor can see some things based upon their experience in you that you haven't seen yet because you haven't experienced it yet. And then they
Oh,
can
sure.
help
Absolutely.
mold and shape you.
Mhm.
I love it.
And when you say it's not just a male thing, it's a female thing. One of the things I want to make sure that especially younger people understand: if you're a female, you can have a male mentor. If you're a male, you can have a female mentor.
Yes.
And I say that from experience. And if you don't mind, I'll give you an example. I had gotten to the point where I was running a global sales office for a company that I worked for. And my boss, who was the AVP, was a female. And I we had been friends before she became my boss. And when they were promoting her into this position, and she called me to tell me that she was getting this promotion, and she was going to be my boss. She called me and she says, "Hey, I'm about to take over all of the global sales offices, and we've been friends for a long time. I want to know how you feel about that." And I said, "Really?" I said, "We're friends. I welcome the opportunity for us to work together." So we became um, boss and subordinate. And our friendship never faltered. Our friendship never changed, even though she was, again, my boss.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, there was a meeting. And in the meeting, um, my disruptive attitude came out. And if she wasn't in the meeting, she laughed.
That's a
'Cause
nice term.
it's funny. My fraternity brothers always say to me, they say, "Velton, you're very diplomatic. When you show up as Velton, your diplomacy shows up." My nickname is Skeeter, and they
Mm,
said, when you go to that meeting, make sure Velton shows up, not
and
Skeeter.
not Skeeter.
Skeeter
Absolutely.
is Skeeter is a little different.
Yeah.
He's a very disruptive individual.
Skeeter from the hood.
Well, they used to call me Velt Ski, and it morphed into Feeder, into Skeeter. But anyway, to make a long story short, she wasn't in this meeting, but she heard about the meeting, and someone changed what I said and put a negative spin on it. So she calls. She's in Chicago, and I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. And she says, "Velton." I said, "Yes." She said, "I am very upset. She asked me a question. I answered the question, and she said, "I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you what I expect. Then I'm going to hang up, and we're never going to have this conversation again." So I
Wow.
said, "Okay." So she we went up one side of me and down the other side.
Uh
And
huh.
and it was really about how I showed up in the meeting, not necessarily what my point was, but how I
Right.
delivered my point.
Yes.
So
Yes.
she said what she had to say. I listened. Then she hung up. About 2 minutes later, she called back, and she's funny. She's funny as heck. She calls back. She says, "Hi, Pumpkin." And I'm like, "Hey, Christy." I just told you her name. And she said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm good. Hey, based on what we were talking about before," she said, "I told you. That's water under the bridge. We're never
Right.
having that conversation again.
Right.
That's gone."
The first phone call was the mentor. The second phone call was the friend.
Exactly.
I love it.
And
You
from
know.
that, I gained an additional level of respect
Mm-hmm.
for her because she was able to change gears and retain that camaraderie that we'd always had. And when you really, that's why I said there's not that much of a difference between mentors and friends if they are truly focused on you being a better you.
Yeah, and to summarize what you just said, based upon what I heard, the mentor gave you some good guidance, and the friend gave you the tongue lashing that you needed to hear, and that's good when you can find a mentor and a friend that can give you that balance, that can speak to Skeeter when Skeeter needs to be spoke to, and knows how to speak to Velton when Velton needs to be spoke to. And I've gotten scolded by Skeeter myself over these past couple of years, but more times than not, I've gotten good advice from Velton. So I want to thank you for that. We could talk all day. We always do, but we're going to wrap up this segment. I want to ask you, is there anything else that you're grateful today that you want to share with the audience? And then we will wrap up this segment of the 21 days of gratitude. So the floor is yours, Velton.
Well, I think the one thing that I'm most grateful for it has been the opportunity to touch and share with other people through my life. Terrance and I talked about a book that I had just written. And the book that I wrote is called Leadership Dynamics: The Principles of Leadership. And it's all about the people side of leadership. This is where mentors and friends really show up. Because when you're in a leadership role, which all of us are, whether we want to accept it or not. We are in a leadership role in some sort. As Terrance said, when you will show up, people are watching you, even though you don't realize they are. So when people are watching you, you're really a leader because in their mind, there's something about you that they want to see, retain, or be a part of. So in a leadership role, it's not about you, it's about them. How are you impacting or affecting or moving, lifting them up? So when I wrote this book, I really wanted to touch people to make sure that they connect with people and pour into each other's lives. How do you help somebody else achieve their goals, their objectives, their dreams? That's a mentor. That's a friend because friends want to see friends do better. If somebody doesn't care enough about you to put their own ego aside to help lift you to where you want to go, number one, they're not your friend. Number two, they're not your mentor. There's a lot of people out here who want to coach you, but
Yeah.
if they're not listening first to understand what you need before they start telling you what you should do, that's not the right situation because number one, they're not your friend because they don't listen to you. Number two, they can't be your mentor because they don't know what you need.
Yeah.
Fulfilling your needs enriches mentorship and friendship.
And that's why he's my mentor and my friend, ladies and gentlemen. This is Velton Shaw the third. You've been watching 21 Days of Gratitude, presented by Unstoppable Thoughts by Coach Terrance. We appreciate you, Velton, for being here and sharing a little bit of your time with us and sharing your words of wisdom. Appreciate you, my brother.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's always a pleasure. And congratulations on this show that you're doing. And thank you for helping other people be better at what they do. God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That is Velton Shaw, you guys, on the 21 Days of Gratitude, The Unstoppable Thoughts by Coach Terrance. We appreciate you. And remember, in your life, you want to be able to seek out your friends, but you also want to establish relationships with some mentors. Because if you're trying to get to the next level, then a mentor is someone you definitely need to have an association with. Mentors can help you get to the next level of your greatness. And I think that's something that you should be grateful for. All right, you guys, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of 21 Days of Gratitude. Listen, if you want to be a guest on the 21 Days of Gratitude, then look at the screen below. All you have to do is send me an email, tleffridge at unstoppablecoaching.com. Or if you're watching us live on one of our platforms, you can just send me a direct message. Tell me a little bit about what you're grateful for, and you may be a guest on 21 Days of Gratitude, where we are sharing an attitude of gratitude as we move into the holiday season. Now, you know what I say, wherever you are in the world today, don't just make it a great day. Go and have an attitude of gratitude, and you can't help but to make it an unstoppable day. Take care.